Fat Puppy here, and here I am in the middle of a subdivision that was built in 1955. In the middle. There's a little family cemetery here. It's been here since 1840. It sits on the edge of what used to be a vast plantation owned by the Bradford family. And as a matter of fact, the house still stands, built also in 1840. And here's the clip to that. It's a short clip. Here it is, built in 1840, and right now it's being renovated. I don't know if you can see the house, but I've often wondered if this street, which is a half-mile long but ends at the house, used to be the driveway that went to the house. I really don't know. This plantation. So, the locals here will know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm sorry if I lose anybody else who's not local. This plantation contained what is now known as Swan Lake and Second Mill. Swan Lake used to be known as First Mill. They both belonged to the Bradford family. It stretched past Liberty Street all the way to past Broad Street and what is now known as the Camden Road. As a matter of fact, there's a sign, there's some land for sale there called, I think it's Bradford Meadows or something like that. Honoring the Bradford name, I would suppose. I guess the Bradford family still doesn't own that. Also went from Alice Drive, possibly Ginyard, all the way over to McCrae's Mill Road. It was a huge, huge plantation. They'd been here since the 1780s, I think, 1790, something like that, when it was first registered. Now, for as old as this cemetery is, there's really not that many people buried here, but they have interesting stories. And there's not as many stones that I should be able to find that at one time were visible. I can't find them. So first let's start with the Bradfords, because there are other people buried here that married into the family. Possibly buried here, no stone found and no real record to verify, would be Matthew Bradford, who was born in 1789 and he died in 1846. His wife, born in 1794, died in 1835. Now I believe he would be one of the children of the original Bradford family that owned this vast plantation. By the way, I know you can see that right there. That cage is not original to the cemetery. Years ago, I believe someone put that up to protect the tombstones. I also think that that tombstone there probably wasn't there because it's just leaning on a tree. However, there's a base over there that you can't see, I'll show you in a minute, that's big enough to hold that tombstone. And I wonder if the tombstone was just moved for its sake, because this is a neighborhood and vandals abound, you know, teenagers and whatever abound. I'm going to try to read this to you. I'm not good at reading on the fly like this. I end up messing up the words and realizing it when you look at the video later. But it looks like it says, "To cherish in affection the memory of one very dear, this tablet is erected over the ashes." See, I didn't know they did cremation then. The ashes of M.A. Brunson. A little research, I found out that was his name was Manly Brunson, and he was the brother of someone that's buried behind him. Actually, the Brunsons married into the Bradford family. Anyway, to continue, it says he left us in his 22nd year, 22 years old, 8th January 1858. But this God that hath bereft us, he can all our sorrows heal. And I'm going to try to read the bottom part. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it. My eyes aren't all that great, and honestly I can't really see letters. I'm going to give it a good try though. "'Tis a pleasant thing to know that o'er us when we die, a mother's heart will pour its woe, a sister heave a sigh, a brother sometimes come to weep at our sepulchre stone, a father there his wails, I think wails, keep and cry, my sorrowful son." And this is the base that I think held that stone. That's something I noticed though, this base is kind of turned a little bit. All these stones face a certain direction, but this one is turned. But I can tell you, these things are real heavy. Nobody just goofed around and turned that. That took some effort. I'm not saying it's originally like that, but that took real effort to turn that if that's the case. And like I said, I do believe that stone right there, the one right there that I read to you, I believe that belongs there. I don't think you can see the whole stone, but we're still gonna give it a try. I see my shadow on it, and I don't like doing that, but the light's just, that's the way it is. Sacred to the memory of Robert D. Bradford, who was born the 2nd of June, 1820, the 27th of August, 1853, and departed this life. I switched sentences. Aged 33 years and 2 months and 25 days. 33 years old. 33 years old. What we have here is a configuration of fencing. 1, 2, 3 little plots, all pretty close to each other with vast different type fencing. And we're going to talk about that now. I'm having to hand hold the camera because I can't get my tripod down far enough. This is the stone of Lucius P. Loring. And this is his wife, Mary Marcina Loring. They were lying flat on the ground. At one time, they were standing up, kind of busted up now, and they're within this fence right here. And I'm going to put this back on the tripod and tell their very interesting story. Let's talk about the Lorings for a few minutes. They used to have a house. It's a hotel now on Main Street. Was the house. The house was built around 1850. His grandfather built this house for him, and that house stayed there until 1965. The house is located where there's a hotel now located called the Downtowner. If you're from this area, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The street is called Loring Place, after Captain Loring. And Main Street, of course, for the main street of the town. The house, like I said, was built as a wedding present by his grandfather and was built on site. It was there until 1965 when the Downtowner Motel bought the land that surrounded it, I think for $75,000 if I remember correctly. The house still stands. This is the neat thing. What they did was they disassembled the house and moved it back out to the plantation to where it had been built to begin with. The lumber had been built from. So it still stands out on Loring Mill Road. Off to the distance, I don't think you can see it from the road. But that land still does belong to the family. Descendants, I don't know if their name's Lorings anymore, but that's their descendants. Marcina, oh, first, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. He was a Confederate soldier, a captain, a Confederate soldier. When the war was over, it was a long time before he got back. His wife, Marcina, thought that he must have been killed and he wasn't coming back, but he did make it back. And now he died in 1886 at 67 years old. Mary Marcina Loring died in 1898. That would make her, she was born in 1820, so she lived to be a ripe old age. And like I said, that's her brother right there. That's his stone. And they have another brother buried in a cemetery that I highlighted, a Dr. Brunson, who died around 35 years old, I think. The tombstone says that she died. Miss Mary died in the house. I don't know why it says that. Almost everybody did back then. But also, her sister-in-law died in that house around 1850, I believe, 1855. But it's just a neat and interesting story. The house still stands, just in a different location. It stands where the timbers were actually cut for it. So I just think that's neat. Now, I don't like doing it this way, but I really have no choice. I got something blowing in my face here too. This here is the grave marker of W.L. Brunson. He was the father of that gentleman right there where that white tombstone is, and Mary Marcina. He was born in 1789 and died in 1868, and accounts at that time said he had great wealth and prestige. He's buried there. His wife is buried next to him. Now, I can't get in there to uncover his stone. I couldn't even really get in there. I just had to reach in there and do a little sweeping with my little brush. Mrs. E.A. Brunson was born in 1800 and died in 1864 at 64 years old. I will show you a better video here in just a second. This broken down fence, cast iron fence, it's in pieces. I can't find a marker in there. I can't even find one just laying on the ground. I've taken a stick and poked around, and I'm not going to take a shovel in there, obviously. I don't want any metal to hit anything that might be there. But I do know who's buried there. Francis Lawson Brunson and Mary Allison Brunson. Francis was born 1831 and died in 1897. His wife Mary was born in 1834 and died in 1926. And like I said, I'm gonna pick this up and just kind of show you this. I hope you'll pardon my shaky hands, but this is the broken down fence here. And I got in there and dug around a little bit with a stick, just trying to locate solid stone. And I couldn't find it. I just couldn't find it. I just wanted to point out, at one time, and this is something I've pointed out before, Mr. Brunson was a rich and powerful man. Mr. Bradford, rich and powerful man. Not in a bad way. They did good things for the community and stuff. They helped build churches and help poor people and stuff. Great wealth and prestige. Cemetery I did, White, last name White, I can't remember the name, I think it's White. The one that's abandoned and tore up. Pillar of the community buried there. Helped build First Presbyterian Church. Found it, donated money, and I'm sure there's a plaque on the wall somewhere with his name on it. Very important people in their time. Now nobody knows, except for maybe their descendants. Nobody even knows who they are. You come, you go. Part of the reason why I do this, and I've mentioned it before, is I like to keep the memories of these people alive, because at one time they did great things. I think that's important. By the way, I mentioned at the beginning of this video who this land belonged to. It was Richard Bradford and his wife Elizabeth Singleton. Elizabeth Singleton came from a very, very wealthy family, and she died in 1829. The Singletons have a couple plantations actually, way out and away from here. Now the oldest stone here, but I couldn't find it. At one time someone surveyed this and could see more. The oldest stone that was here anyways belonged to Harriet Angelina Millet. Now Millet is an old family name from this area, and she died in 1849. Marked stone that I could not find, William Eldridge Millet, who died in 1858 at 39 years old. I couldn't find Richard Brown. I got W.L. Brunson and M.A. Brunson. Of course, we talked about who's in the fence there, Captain Loring, the Confederate soldier. Francis Lawson Brunson and Mary Allison Brunson. They're there somewhere. Can't find a stone though. Possibly buried here again is Matthew Bradford and Harry Bradford. There's also a Sarah Bradford Brown who has no marker, but she died in 1870. Her husband was Irvin Adam Brown, and he might be buried here. If he is, he would be the oldest known person here, who died in 1817, but we have no way of knowing that. So this is another one of them old family cemeteries, and the descendants of these people, they're still alive, they're around. The unfortunate thing is the ones who are old enough to care are too old to do anything about the care and upkeep of the cemetery. The younger ones, I guess they're too busy, they might not care, I don't know. There's a plethora of reasons as to why and what, and you know, and stuff like that. I've covered a couple of these cemeteries now like this where the older folks are like, man, I used to take care of it, nobody will take over now. And this cemetery here has been cleaned up a few times actually. I know the Sons of the Confederacy cleaned it up at one point, and they tend to do that if there's a Confederate soldier buried in a cemetery. If there's enough manpower, and I think this one locally has enough manpower, they try to clean them up. The unfortunate thing is there's nobody to keep it clean. I have another cemetery I'll be working on later on in the future. It took me a while to find it. Actually, the gentleman who's related to these people is also related to the people of the cemetery I showed you that's all covered in woods. He pointed it out to me, and I had a hard time finding it, but I finally did find it. And at some point in the future, I got to do research. It might be a long time. I'll bring that to you. I guess that's all I got to say. Oh, by the way, pay attention to this next thing.
Don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe.
And when you subscribe, there'll be a bell that'll show up on the right-hand side of the screen. Hit that and you'll get notified every time I upload a video. Thank you.